Shedeur Sanders is one of the most talked about prospects heading into the draft. He's the son of Deion coach Prime Sanders, one of the most legendary, marketable, and influential names football has ever seen. That alone would make him a headline magnet. Add in his actual play on the field, calm under pressure, poised even when his offensive line was collapsing, polished in interviews, respected by teammates. And you got the recipe for a star quarterback who could easily become the face of a franchise.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
But here's where things get messy. Instead of focusing on what Shedeur has done on the field, instead of breaking down his actual tape, we're suddenly hearing whispers, reports, sources say, stories about teams like the Ravens or the Eagles not being interested. Stories about Shedeur being entitled or maybe too polished or not the right fit. And who's at the center of these reports? The same handful of NFL insiders who always seem to know just enough to stir up the pot. Enter Adam Schefter. Now, let's be real. Schefter isn't some neutral observer, just passing along tidbits of info. He's not the guy in the corner of the bar who overheard a scout talking and decided to tweet it out. He's the NFL's mouthpiece. When Schefter speaks, it's because someone with power wanted him to say it. His entire brand is built on relationships with front offices, agents, and league officials. He doesn't just report. He strategically releases information in ways that benefit the people feeding him. That's how he stayed on top for decades. So when reports about Shedeur Sanders pop up at suspicious times, right after Colorado loses a tough game, right before draft buzz really starts heating up, you've got to ask, who benefits from this? Who gains from making Shedeur look like a problem, or like a player slipping down the draft board? Because it sure as hell isn't Shedeur. Deion Sanders sees it, and he's not afraid to say it out loud. He's called out how the NFL media machine doesn't just cover stories, it creates them. They'll sit on information for weeks, even months, and drop it at the exact moment it generates the most clicks, the most outrage, or the most leverage for certain teams. They don't care if it hurts a player's reputation. They don't care if it changes public perception. They don't even care if it's fair. They care about attention. And they care about protecting the league's larger interests. Because here's the truth. The NFL as an institution doesn't like players having too much control of their own narratives. The league has always been about shield first, player second. They want the NFL logo bigger than any one name, bigger than any one star. That's why you see them clash with outspoken players. That's why they subtly push back on anyone who looks like they're about to become bigger than the brand. And Shedeur Sanders? He's a threat to that balance. He's not just another quarterback prospect. He's Prime's son. He's polished. He's media trained since birth. He knows how to handle the spotlight. He knows his value. He knows how to market himself. And he doesn't need the NFL machine to build his brand. He already has one. That is terrifying for a league that's obsessed with controlling every detail of its storylines. So what do? They leak. They spin. They plant stories through their trusted insiders, shaping perception before the kid even takes a pro snap. They make sure the narrative isn't Shedeur Sanders, the next great quarterback. Instead, it becomes Shedeur Sanders, overhyped, entitled, maybe slipping down the board. Think about the timing. Reports about teams supposedly not being interested in Shedeur dropped right when the media conversation needed new fuel. Whispers about entitlement pushed out after Shedeur showed confidence in interviews. Questioning his polish? Raised just when the draft chatter was heating up. You can practically see the strings being pulled. And for what? For clicks, for control, for the league to make sure no single player ever overshadows the shield. Deion Sanders has been around long enough to know the game. He knows how media manipulation works because he's lived it. Back in his playing days, people called him flashy, cocky, arrogant. Every label you could throw at a confident black athlete who refused to apologize for his greatness. He didn't just survive that, he thrived in it. But now he sees the same playbook being used against his son. And he's not about to stay quiet. Because here's the reality. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need this league's manipulation to succeed. His play speaks for itself. The kid has poise, accuracy, leadership, and resilience. He's faced more pressure already, literally and figuratively, than most quarterbacks ever will. He's played behind a line that couldn't protect him, and still made NFL-level throws. He's had the weight of being Deion's son since the moment he picked up a football, and he hasn't cracked. If anything, he's become sharper. But that doesn't fit the NFL's preferred narrative. They don't want a quarterback walking in the door already media savvy, already confident, already branded. They want someone they can shape, someone they can sell as their own product. And so, the leaks keep coming. But let's expose what's really going on. These aren't honest evaluations. They're negotiations. They're tactics. By planting stories that Shedeur is entitled or slipping, or maybe not as NFL ready as people think, teams lower his stock. They create doubt. They make sure that if he doesn't go as high as his talent suggests, it looks justified. And when that happens, a team can swoop in and get a franchise quarterback at a discount. It's not analysis. It's strategy. It's business. And it's dirty. Deion's frustration isn't just about his son. It's about the bigger system. Because Shedeur isn't the first player to be undermined by NFL media manipulation. And he won't be the last. Every year, you see the same patterns. A young player with confidence suddenly becomes a problem. A prospect with swagger suddenly gets whispers about character concerns. It's not an accident. It's a feature of how this machine works. The saddest part? Fans fall for it. People take Schefter's tweets as gospel. They repeat the narratives without questioning them. And before long, the lie becomes the truth. A confident kid becomes arrogant. A polished prospect becomes overhyped. And the league gets exactly what it wanted. But Deion Sanders isn't letting this slide. He's pulling back the curtain, pointing at the strings and saying, "Look, this isn't journalism. This is manipulation." And he's right. Because Shedeur Sanders deserves to be judged on his play, his talent, his leadership, not on strategically leaked narratives designed to serve someone else's agenda. He deserves to walk into the draft room as himself, not as the caricature the NFL media is trying to paint him as. And here's the thing, the truth will come out. It always does. When Shedeur gets on that NFL field, when he starts making plays, when he starts winning games, all of this noise will disappear. The leaks, the whispers, the strategic narratives, they'll fade. Because the one thing even the NFL can't manipulate is the scoreboard. Shedeur Sanders isn't just fighting for his draft position. He's fighting for fairness, for authenticity, for the right to be seen as who he really is, not who the media machine says he is. And the fact that Deion is standing up, calling this out, refusing to play along with the spin, that tells you everything you need to know about how serious this is. So the next time you see a Schefter tweet or a conveniently timed source report, ask yourself, who benefits? Who gains from this story? Because chances are it's not Shedeur Sanders. But here's the beauty of it all. Shedeur doesn't need the spin. He doesn't need the narrative. He doesn't need the leaks. He has something stronger than all of that. He has the game. And the game doesn't lie. What do you think? Are the NFL and its media insiders deliberately trying to undermine Shedeur Sanders? Do you think these reports are about truth or about control? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is a conversation that needs to be had. And if you're here for more unfiltered breakdowns, more truth behind the headlines, and more call-outs of the media manipulation nobody else wants to talk about, hit that subscribe button. Because the media might try to control the story, but we're here to make sure you see the truth. And the truth is simple. Shedeur Sanders is the real deal, no matter what they say. Deion Sanders has been telling us the truth, and the truth is not pretty. The NFL's media ecosystem is built to serve the shield, not the player. And when a player, especially one with the last name Sanders, threatens to step outside of that control, the spin cycle goes into overdrive. Let's just sit with this for a second. Shedeur Sanders is one of the most recognizable names in all of college football right now. He's been under the microscope from the second he transferred to Colorado. He's been criticized more harshly, nitpicked more aggressively, and questioned more loudly than quarterbacks who've actually fallen apart on the field. And why? Because he's confident. Because he knows his worth. Because he dares to walk in the light of his father's shadow and say, "Yeah, I belong here too." That makes the league nervous. That makes the media nervous. Because the system is set up to build stars, not inherit them. The league wants rookies who owe their brand to the NFL, who rely on the shield to give him spotlight. Shedeur doesn't need that. He already has the spotlight, and that's a threat. So what happens? Convenient leaks. Suspicious timing. Whispers about entitlement. Reports about teams like the Ravens or the Eagles supposedly being turned off or not interested. And it's always the same handful of guys breaking the news, always worded in just the right way to plant doubt in the public's mind. It's not journalism. It's strategy. It's manipulation. And Deion sees it for what it is. He's been in this game too long not to recognize it. He knows the difference between honest reporting and a smear campaign disguised as sources say. He knows how this media cycle feeds itself. Rumors create clicks. Clicks create ad revenue. Ad revenue keeps the league and its partners happy. And if a player's reputation gets shredded in the process, oh well, that's just the business. But let's stop pretending it's harmless. Because these narratives stick. When Adam Schefter tweets something, it doesn't just vanish. It gets quoted in articles, repeated on podcasts, shouted across debate shows, and echoed in front offices. By the time draft night rolls around, it doesn't matter if it was true or not. It's been baked into the evaluation. Shedeur isn't just competing with other quarterbacks. He's competing with the story that's been told about him. And let's talk about how calculated the timing is. These reports don't just drop randomly. They come when the narrative needs a twist. Colorado takes a tough loss. Suddenly Shedeur is arrogant. Draft buzz is building. Suddenly the Ravens aren't interested. Right before the combine? Suddenly his team preferences are leaking. Convenient, right? Almost like someone's pulling the strings. This isn't about information. It's about influence. Now let's zoom out. This isn't just about Shedeur. This is how the NFL has always operated. Look back at draft history, and you'll see the same playbook again and again. Right before the draft, certain players, usually the ones with swagger, usually the ones who don't play the humble company man role, get stories leaked about their character concerns. Think about Warren Sapp back in the 90s. Think about Lamar Jackson being told to switch positions. Think about Cam Newton being dragged through the mud for smiling too much. Different names, same tactic. The league protects itself first. It protects the brand. And it uses media insiders as chess pieces to do it. That's why Deion's voice here matters so much. Because he's not just calling out a bad headline. He's pulling the curtain back on the entire system. He's saying out loud what players have whispered for decades, that the NFL doesn't just report on narratives, it manufactures them. It builds heroes. It builds villains. And it cashes in on both. And Shedeur Sanders? He's being positioned as a villain in this story. The confident kid who needs to be humbled. The polished prospect who's too polished. The quarterback who thinks he's bigger than the game. That's the archetype they're pushing, because it generates outrage, it generates debate, and it keeps the spotlight where the league wants it, not on Shedeur's actual talent, but on whether or not he deserves the hype. It's exhausting. It's transparent. And it's unfair. Because if we're talking about talent, Shedeur has it. He's proven it over and over again. He's stayed calm under relentless pressure. He's delivered in big moments. He's led with composure when everything around him was chaos. That's what NFL teams should be evaluating. Not some rumor fed to Schefter at the perfect time to knock him down a peg. But here's where this gets really wild. The manipulation isn't just about draft stock. It's about money. Think about it. If Shedeur comes in as the son of primetime, already branded, already marketable, already a face that fans recognize, then the league doesn't own his story. He owns it. That means jersey sales, sponsorships, appearances, they all benefit him first, not the shield. The NFL doesn't like that. The NFL wants to make sure its stars are stars because of them, not in spite of them. So the leaks? The whispers? The strategic narratives? They're not just about planting doubt in teams. They're about making sure Shedeur never gets too far ahead of the league itself. But here's what they're underestimating. Shedeur isn't just built for this. He's been forged in it. He's been living under this kind of scrutiny since he was old enough to throw a ball. He's had the weight of Deion's name on his shoulders forever. And he hasn't cracked. He's sharpened. He's gotten tougher. And every time someone doubts him, every time someone calls him arrogant, every time someone tries to control his story, he answers the same way, by producing on the field. That's the part the NFL can't manipulate. That's the part media leaks can't erase. The tape doesn't lie. The wins don't lie. The poise doesn't lie. And Deion knows it. That's why he's not scared of calling the league out. He knows Shedeur will do what he's always done, silence the noise with his game. But until then, Deion's going to make sure we all understand what's happening behind the scenes. He's going to make sure we don't just swallow every Schefter tweet as gospel. He's going to keep reminding us that the NFL media isn't neutral, it's strategic. And honestly, good. It's about time someone said it. Because if the league is going to keep trying to play puppet master, then the least we can do is stop acting like the strings aren't there. We should be questioning every source, every report, every conveniently timed leak. We should be asking, who benefits from this? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not the player. It's the league. It's the brand. It's the machine. But the machine doesn't win games. The machine doesn't complete passes. The machine doesn't lead locker rooms. Players do. And Shedeur Sanders is a player. A damn good one. No leak, no whisper, no insider spin can take that away from him. So let's call it what it is. Shedeur isn't the problem. The NFL media ecosystem is. And until we all start seeing it clearly, they'll keep running the same plays, the same manipulation, the same smears. But here's the difference this time. Deion Sanders isn't going to let them get away with it quietly. He's going to keep shining a light on the tactics. And Shedeur? He's going to keep proving the truth on the field. And when that happens, when Shedeur silences the critics the same way he's been doing his whole career, the only thing that'll be exposed is how desperate the league was to control a story it could never own. Shedeur isn't just another quarterback prospect. He's the quarterback prospect that carries more than just a game resume. He carries a name, a brand, and a legacy. He's been built for the spotlight. He doesn't shy away from it. And that alone is enough to make some people nervous. Add in the fact that he's confident and polished, and suddenly the media wants to make him a villain. And who better to deliver the villain edit than NFL insiders? They don't have to lie outright. All they have to do is drop a little seed. Sources say some teams aren't impressed with his attitude. Or, reports suggest Shedeur is narrowing down his preferences. Boom. Instant narrative. And even if it's flimsy, even if it's strategically timed, once Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport tweets it out, it becomes gospel. But let's pause and ask, what exactly has Shedeur done to deserve this kind of smear? He's played behind one of the weakest defensive lines in college football and still looked composed. He's led his team with maturity. He's spoken confidently, yes, but always with professionalism. That's not entitlement, that's leadership. That's exactly what you want in a franchise quarterback. The truth is, the NFL doesn't like when a player comes in already owning his own narrative. The league wants rookies to play humble, let the shield do the branding, and slowly grow into the spotlight under their control. Shedeur? He's already there. He doesn't need them to teach him how to handle media. He doesn't need them to shape his brand. And that makes the league uneasy. So what's the next move? Undermine him. Plant doubts. Make fans question whether he's worth the hype. Lower his draft stock just enough so that teams can justify passing. Or worse, so a team can swoop in and grab him later as a value pick. It's not journalism. It's business. It's economics disguised as analysis. But here's the mistake they're making. Shedeur Sanders isn't going to crumble under this. He's been doubted before. He's been called names before. And every single time, he's answered the same way, by letting the game speak louder than the noise. And that's what Deion knows. That's why he's not just defending his son. He's exposing the whole system. Because the only way to beat media manipulation is to call it out for what it is. Shine a light on the spin. Refuse to let it go unchecked. Because at the end of the day, the leaks, the whispers, the narratives, they don't complete passes. They don't lead huddles. They don't win games. Shedeur does. And when he steps onto that NFL field, all the noise will evaporate. The game will tell the truth. So let me ask you, do you buy into the media spin, or do you see Shedeur for what he really is, a poised, ready, and dangerous quarterback prospect? Drop your tape below. And if you're done with the manipulation, if you want the truth behind the headlines instead of the spin, hit subscribe. Because while the insiders play games, we'll be right here reminding you, Shedeur Sanders is the real deal, and the NFL can't spin its way out of that.